So today I'm going to be doing corn cockle. Now corn cockle is, or agrostemma, I might have said that wrong, agrostemma, is a lovely wildflower. It is poisonous to sheep and animals, so do be careful. Corn cockle is lovely. It can be sown in the spring or autumn, and we're just going to get it kick-started now in autumn so that we have one less thing to worry about come the spring. This is a corn cockle seed. It is quite small, probably 1mm to 1.5 mm in depth, a misshapen sphere, I would say. I've already prepared a seed tray. The seed tray has got just standard multi-purpose peat-free compost, the best that you can afford, but it doesn't really matter too much for seed germination because you don't need that much nutrition in the seed tray for germination. However, if you're keeping them in the tray for longer, then there will need to be a bit of nutrition. So if you were going to be potting them on quite quickly, then any old cheap compost will do. But I want to save time and effort and money, so I only buy multi-purpose, and I just sow them into a seed tray that is deep enough to let them grow until they're relatively substantial seedlings. I'm only looking at a few plants, 10 maximum. I've got more than 10 seeds here just to allow for poor germination and to cover myself through the winter. Being planted at 12mm depth. When you need to plant seeds to a specific depth, it's often easier to make the holes in the compost where you want to plant the seeds at the depth that you want to plant them. It can be simply using a dibber tool, so in my case a pencil, but anything that will make the size of hole that you want to the depth that you want. And then simply drop in the seeds. Because there's not many seeds, there is plenty of room for them to grow. I can spread them around quite far so that they won't need to be thinned too much. Press them in. So that they make contact with the compost. Pat that down. Of course, put in a label, and then it's ready for watering. I will be watering from underneath, so I will be plonking the seed tray into a tray of water and just letting it sit for half an hour until the water seeps up to the top through the holes at the bottom of the tray, and so it's a gentle watering, so none of these seeds will be displaced by me watering over the top, which could happen if I do overhead watering. As this is August and it's an autumn sown seed, or late summer autumn sown, I can leave these outside. There's no chance of frost at this point in the year, so they can just be left outside to germinate. They don't need to be protected in any way. I could have direct sown them, so I could have made some space in the borders and sown them directly into the ground. However, I haven't got space in the borders at this point in time because they're full of flowers. So this is why we're sowing them on the seeds, sowing them in seed trays, and it also gives me time to plan where they're going to go later on in the season. So I don't need to waste space in my cutting patch for plants that are not going to be flowering this year. So I can leave these seeds out. If I'd sown them in spring, I would be sowing them in a greenhouse. When they're at the germination stage, they don't want to be hit by frost at that point, so they're a bit tender at that point, but once they're established they'll be fine, whereas doing them now we can plant them, leave them out and then plant them out when they're ready to grow. So it's a perfect time to be sowing these hardy annuals. This is the corn cockle seed after 2 to 3 weeks. So they've germinated well and soon they'll be ready to plant out into the garden. If you fancy giving corn cockle flowers a go this season, then we have some seeds in our shop ready to go. You'll find the link below or scan the QR code.